First, I take this box with a bunch of those and sneak out.
Ma's not gonna let you get away with that.
Make sure she doesn't look my way then.
But she's too fast. She'll be back at the Bunchador before you get back.
Slow her down then.
And how am I supposed to do that?
I don't know.
Hey Chelsea, how's it going?
It's going good, thank God. How are you doing?
I am great. Excited to talk about your movie, Go, Dani, Go. And excited to have whoa, I see fireworks behind you.
I did nothing to initiate that, but I support it.
Yeah,
I
that was
loved it.
cool. Like when we say the name of your film and fireworks appear in the background.
I guess I
That's
put my
nuts.
thumbs up, but I don't know. I don't know what I did.
Oh, wow. So, and excited to have a Guatemalan filmmaker. I just got back from Guatemala, had one of my best friend's siblings' weddings, and it was just an unbelievable week. And yeah, to have another two, like myself and my co-founder were both half Nicaraguans, so having another Central American in the mix is super, super exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a little bit jealous that you get to go to Guatemala, but I'll get more of your experience after.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us a little bit about your movie, Go, Dani, Go, and just maybe a little bit about your experience beforehand.
Absolutely. So Go, Dani, Go is the story about a sprightly young daughter of a strawberry farm field worker and her belief that even though her mom told her she can't go audition for the soccer team because it's the same day that her mom needs her to help work the fields, this spunky young girl is just like audacious enough to think she can make both work. So she does attempt to make it to the tryouts. Antics ensue. Does she or does she not make it to those tryouts is the question. You're gonna have to watch the movie to find out. But I guess in that is just this representation of what I feel immigrant dreams are and like children of immigrants, what we go through, the extra layers of journey and the chase that we have to go through to even have an opportunity to do what we love to do. And yet within us is that passion and that fire that leads us to be able to fulfill these dreams, not just the dreams of our immigrant parents or our generations, but our own, that they are possible, that we can achieve them. And in the future, it's an inevitable destiny for us.
That's wonderful. And one of the sequences that I thought was just so funny and cool was when he did some of that voiceover, the girl's voiceover on top of some of these other characters, which reminded me a little bit of a scene in Eva Longoria's Flaming Hot movie, and I thought it was so funny. I thought it's such a cool technique. Tell me a little bit about your style, your inspiration, because I thought definitely like it was super comedic how you approached it.
Oh, I'm glad. And you know what? I look back on it and I wish I could have made it funnier. The pace of production and everything, it's like, and of course we were pairing it through. It was with a mentorship with USC, so there was a lot of like cross communication with not just what I wanted to achieve, but what faculty and feedback and like recommendations and everything. I just wish I could have made it like hilarious, like absolute like comedy. But I love where it's at right now. It's me being the inner critic, the artist that I am. But yeah, that sequence that you mentioned is actually the very first thing that I saw clear as day when I was reading the script. The script was written by my freaking wonderful, beautiful friend David Wilner, talented writer, director, producer. And he wrote the script and it was submitted for consideration for like this program. I was reading it because I was selected as a candidate for the program, and I still had to find a script to pitch to finally get into the program. And when I was reading it, I just like cried at the end. It was really beautiful, and I think of course it's like a moment of feeling like seen. And at the end, it's like she doesn't get what she wants, but she has everything she needs to fulfill her dreams. And that's something that, like, again, I resonate with because I didn't grow up like I'm a filmmaker. I didn't grow up with anyone in my community that was a filmmaker or an actress or a director. It's a lot of me like picking myself up by the bootstraps and finding people who do know how to achieve what I want to do, and seeking that guidance and just kind of going for it, like no after no, rejection after rejection, redirection after redirection. And I was just inspired by this little girl, which I think, and again, I love working with young performers. I feel like especially through my this season of my career, that's what I want to do, because I feel like they represent such a purity of like the human spirit, such an innocence, and like again that hopefulness, that faith that I can do what I set my mind out to do. Whereas adults, sometimes we're just kind of clouded by what society tells us is possible. Demographics, percentages, we already know what the percentages are for Hispanics and Latinos, not just like in a general like economic scale, but in this industry for me specifically, and then in other industries as well. It's like our opportunity historically has not been as present. But again, bringing it back to the script, it's like I was just really inspired from that first read. I got so emotional, and I knew that was my story. And I think I picked that story, I picked these collaborators, and then after that, every door started to open because I feel like it was meant to be. And that sequence was the first thing I saw when I was reading it. And again, I knew I wanted to make it lighthearted, because in other stories, it's so easy for people who don't know, for lack of a better term, the struggle. They don't know about our community, and they're always depicting us in such a kind of sepia tone, dark, contrasty, like sweat everywhere, and like, like it's like pobrecito, pobrecito. And that's not the way, that's not the way I like view myself. That's not the way I view like my parents. It's like, yes, we have to go through some additional probably obstacles, but that just makes us stronger. So I wanted to decentralize maybe that typical interpretation of what Latinidad looks like on screen and provide something more fresh, something bouncier, and something more colorful in a probably otherwise like assumed like kind of confined area. Like I think for people who work in that area, from what I've spoken to, it's like this is their life. It's like they don't say like, ay, pobrecito, pobrecito me. Like, of course they have dreams and like aspirations, but they don't look at the world as dark. It's like, it's still like a beautiful, bright, in a world full of possibilities.
Yeah, I like that word used, the Latinidad. And that's one of the reasons Javier and I started this film festival, to share different stories and storytellers that portray Latinidad in a different way. And echoing kind of what you said about your youthful character, yeah, I love, like, you could see in her eyes that she's not jaded at all, and she has so much optimism. And while there is the struggle, like you said, for lack of a better word, I think that one thing that is beautiful about immigrants in this country is, that we believe in the American dream and those opportunities. Like growing up growing up in developing countries, everything is possible in a way because it's not overly developed. So yeah, I definitely felt that.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
Tell me about your production process. Where did you shoot it, and how is that like?
Yeah, so we shot it in Camarillo, California. I love my producers. Shout out to my producers, because there was definitely like talk of shooting it in different areas, or like cheating a field, or X and Y. But I told them that I like absolutely, like, we had to get a field, in like a field where people worked. And we found a field in Camarillo. And we actually spent some mornings with workers from the field, because up to like the hours that we were in production, right? So that we have our production day. So we would start at like 6 or 5 a.m. There were people working in the fields before we would step on. So I would get the chance to like talk with them and hear a little bit more about like their experience and including pre-production. And then we would step out onto the field for the rest of the day, and we would film. And it was honestly the hardest thing I've done in my life. And it's with like the asterisk of like what other people have it like these people who live this life of working in the farms, they do this every single day. And I'm not even picking the strawberries, I'm not even picking the fruit, I'm just with my camera with my crew and like shooting a movie. But it was so like hard. It was very, very hot. We were shooting in August of 2022. And Southern California sun is not forgiving. Sunscreen everywhere. People had sunscreen streaked across their cheeks and like masks. And what I feel really grateful for is that my crew is probably the hardest working people out there. They showed up every single day with like a smile on their face, and I think we all knew that we wanted to be a part in telling this story, and honoring what was at the heart of it. And then just it also the tone. It's like tonally the story is not like woe is me, woe is me. So I think that there was like an attitude of hopefulness, not just in the story, but in like its execution and in the crew every day that we showed up. Which, you know, I can only be so grateful to my crew for. But yeah, like I think it's funny because I still have my my DP, and we did some location scouts and we did some visits, and he still has these shoes that has thorns from the field,
Wow.
and I have shoes that have thorns from the field still to this day. It's been years, and I've gotten them washed and I've tried to take them out, but they're goners. Like they still have the thorns and they still have like little thistles attached to them. Because yeah, that's what we experienced. Just
You
working
know, I have a
between.
question. Since you got to speak with the farmers, something in your film that I don't know if it's something you took creative license or that's how it actually works. It was something that really surprised me was that in my mind is like, okay, there's an owner of a farm, and however those strawberries come out, it's that owner's responsibility because it was his production process and his farm. So in your film, you know, people who are working on the farm and picking the strawberries come to show their strawberries to their boss, and the boss says yes or no, these strawberries are acceptable or not acceptable. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, so they have a mayordomo. That's what it's called typically in like the field. It's just like their supervisor. And because fields can range, right? I think the field that we filmed on was like a family owned field. Like they've conserved the property for years, you know, refusing to be bought out by these larger corporations. But as you can imagine, there's the larger corporations that have acres of fields. They can't possibly have like one person covering the whole thing. So what they do is they have like mayordomos for sections of the field, and so field workers will report to them with what they pick. It passes like through like review. It just passes through the mayordomo's hands, gets onto typically what is like a truck or like a cart, and is then carried out to where it's going to start to be processed for like distribution. Again, we wanted so badly to get one of those carts and like the trucks that come through and actually pick up like all the fruit. But that was a bit of an expense that we decided to allocate otherwise.
But the mayordomo, does he work for that family that owns the farm?
Yeah.
So then if those strawberries are not acceptable, it's just lost product.
It's a
But
mix.
people still get paid no matter what, right? Or is it
You get
only
paid
if
by
the
the
strawberries?
box.
But that's crazy because it's their farm's strawberries. That's a crazy system.
Yeah, and again, it's gone through transitions because now, you know, there's more technology involved and just like different kind of opportunities like present in like that revision process. But yeah, typically it is like the mayordomo who has like a kind of final say about what goes from what's picked, what goes officially to the like cart, which gets taken to distribution. But it's also a reflection of him or of them. If something goes forward and like something in the batch proves to be, you know, unreasonable or otherwise like unusable, then he gets, you know, he gets nicked, and then it's like that's why like there's those processes of revision. But yeah, it's definitely from what I've spoken to people who worked in the process, it's like that, just like the fear of authority, someone who has a control over your work and your life, your livelihood, because it's money on the table, money to families, and 35 cents a box. It's like it's not a ton of money, but that's why they need it, because they're trying to feed their families and trying to pay their rent and trying to, you know, increase the opportunity of their life at the disposal of someone else's choice. Which again, the mayordomo, and I think for people who are immigrants, is, you know, like authority figures, is they're kind of scary. And I think that's what I tried to show through Dani too, is like just the change in perspective. So she's a little girl and he can kind of like tower over her. But it's like,
but I love
like,
that she's a brave character.
Yeah, you know, we tried. It's definitely like the spirit of the kind of person I wanted to imbue in her. And like, I think especially as like a young girl, it's like the story was originally written for a boy, and then we changed the gender to a girl, because I was like, girls have always done this. And from the people I spoke to, they're like, the older sisters that hold it down, it's like the sisters who have had to do the same work, they're like, we don't get seen. So we really appreciate you like giving us a chance to be seen. Yeah, the girls are killer.
Well, Chelsea, we're so excited to screen your movie, and I think there's going to be a lot of great people in the audience that are going to be able to see there's a lot of we're in Florida, a lot of Floridians. You know, I lived in LA for a long time. I know exactly the area between Camarillo and Santa Barbara that you're talking about, and it'll be a new world for them to see. So it's going to be super fresh and exciting.
No, thank you for giving us the chance to show it with the audience. Hoping I can make it out. But thank you.
Fingers
crossed. You for giving another place.
Well, Chelsea, Merry Christmas, and thank you so much. We will be in touch.
Yes.
Thank you so much for making the time.